Okay, so for people who are doing quantitative, instead of using a framework, you are going to set some hypotheses. So hypotheses are, in short words, a statement that shows you the expected outcome between two variables. So what do you think will happen if this happens? Something like that. So something extremely important, and this is something that we are going to talk about when doing our research, is that the hypothesis must be settled from the theory, not from the practice. So that means that if you think that something is going to happen, that is not enough evidence to set a hypothesis. You need to underpin your hypothesis on theory. That means you need to find other studies who have done something similar to you. What did they find? What were their conclusions? And build from these conclusions. This is a kind of a test, or if you're setting correctly your hypothesis. So the first one is if your hypothesis focus on something that you can actually test, because sometimes it's impossible. It's like maybe if you want to test something like the if we I don't know, the larger the sun, the the faster the earth moves. That's impossible to test, right? It's like you can't manipulate the size of the sun, so that will be impossible. So make sure that you can test it. Number two is that you are including a dependent and an independent variable. It's not like if you want to measure, for instance, if you drink more water, that's independent, then you will measure how much soda do you drink. That doesn't make any sense, right? Because drinking water doesn't affect drinking soda. I think they're both are independent variables. So it's more like the more, if you drink more water, you are more hydrated. That's a good hypothesis. You have independent variable, drinking water, and then you have a dependent variable, hydration, right? Then number three, make sure that you can manipulate the variables, or that you have access, or that the variables can move. It's more like that, because in the statistical analysis, you need variance, right? If everything's the same, there's nothing you can do. You need different, you need different observations. So maybe if you are, if you want to study if being a woman uh, make if women earn less money than men, then you actually need to have men and women, right? Because if you only have women, then it doesn't make sense again. So be careful on that. And finally, can you test your hypothesis without violating ethical standards? That's more like in medicine or something like that. Like in the 50s and 60s, there were some experiments where people were, I don't know, doing experiments with other people and they didn't know. So that's not ethical. So I think it shouldn't be a problem in our studies, but make sure that you are okay with these four. So here I have an example of good hypothesis. And here it's a basic format that can be like this. If this happens, then we will observe this other thing. This is a very basic formula for setting a hypothesis. The, the simplest form is is the best form. So here I have two examples. One says, students who eat breakfast will perform better on a math exam than students who do not eat breakfast. That's no, it's not bad, but I think this one is better because it's more concise. It says eating breakfast has a positive effect on student performance. If you want to add math on student performance in a math exam, it's okay. But I think this one is clear. Eating breakfast has a positive effect on student performance. I think it's more straightforward. So try to set your hypothesis, and also try to set your hypothesis from the theory. Like if you want to set this hypothesis, you need to find studies that have found something like that. Like maybe they found that eating breakfast has a positive effect on, um, I don't know, on history exams. So then you want to prove that for math exams. Or maybe you found that workers who eat breakfast have a better performance on their jobs. It's not the same. It's not students having exams, but it's quite similar, right? It's like people doing something, and it has a better result if you eat breakfast. So that's what you should be doing, settling those hypotheses. And remember, always use other studies to defend your assumption, or in this case, more than assumption, the hypothesis. So I think that will be all if you are doing quantitative or mixed methods, or if you don't know yet.